what do you believe in?
So I believe that my religion, I like to joke around. My religion is love, and the rules I like to follow. A simple one rule is treating others how you want to be treated, and I believe that applies to all animals and all humans. And it's simple. Like, I would not want to be farmed. I would not want to be milked. I would not want to be killed. So I'm not doing that to other animals. That just makes simple sense to me.
Okay.
Also back to religion. Sorry for that rant.
That's okay.
I believe you can believe anything you want, and more power to you. But as soon as you start, how do I want to say?
Enforcing,
controlling, taking other people's beliefs and diminishing. Everyone has the right to believe what they want. But as soon as you start, I'm lost for a single word. I'm looking for that word.
That's okay.
It's not coming. But
Authority, control, knowledge, control and lifestyle.
It came back. As soon as you start infringing on other people's rights, so whether it's an animal or a human, that's where the law of treating others becomes wrong. Right?
So that's a bit ambiguous, because if vegans were ever formed the majority of people in Canada,
one day.
or if vegans ever formed the majority of people sitting in the parliament, then would you infringe on our religious rights to do religious slaughters during the Eid festival, or for Jews might have things like that?
Fantastic question. But that, I feel like, and the fundamental question is, there's a dilemma, because you're asking me not to infringe on your rights, but at the same time you're infringing on the animal's rights. So how do we come to a resolution? I believe veganism is the resolution, because veganism believes of not hurting anyone.
Okay, so there's still a bit of ambiguity there. I wanna just like clarify that.
Can you clarify the word? I'm actually not.
Right. So in other words, I mean, like, just a little bit of lack of clarity,
specific.
a little bit lack of clarity. So then, just to be clear, so I don't misquote you or misunderstand you,
Please, I'll let you.
in this like kind of hypothetical future in which the vegans form the majority and most of the members of the parliament are vegan, let's say, in that ideal situation, you would say that Muslims, and not just Muslims, like Jews,
Anyone.
Christians, anyone, atheists even who want to eat meat, now you are not allowed to eat meat anymore, which means exotic burger, 6X fried chicken,
all
the
these
G-Spot Korean hot dog and sandwich, and on and on.
These
Mexican.
are very valid points.
Yeah, these will either be closed or they will be forced to go vegan as well. Correct or incorrect?
Let me tell you why I believe that
Can you
should
speak
happen.
up a little
Yes.
bit?
Okay.
I believe that should happen because I could give you an example. If you look at history, there were a lot of unethical businesses, trades. There still are, right? A lot of slave trades, a lot of sexual slavery. Does that mean just because people are making money, they have a business, an unethical business, does that mean they should go on? I believe they should close because it's unethical. So I believe having a restaurant that hurts an animal is unethical.
Right. So and that shows that then it's not only religion that imposes itself or tries to control people. No, but my point is that it's not only religions that try to impose their values on other people, or it's not only religions that say, here's what's right and you better follow this. And it's not just religions that coerce, but this is an example of a non-religious ideology.
It's a coercion, sorry to interrupt, it's a coercion of non-violence, of non-aggression. What's wrong with that? Please explain why that's not a good thing.
Yeah, but I mean, violence is not the only evil in the world, right? So we would see alcoholism as an evil, drugs as an evil. We see prostitution as an evil.
For the most part, they're only hurting the victim themselves. When you're an alcoholic, yes, the family members around you are hurt, but ultimately, physically, you're hurting yourself. When you're not vegan, you're hurting the animal.
But don't you think a human hurting himself is more problematic for our human morality than a human hurting a chicken? Like, what I mean is, between me killing myself and me killing a chicken.
That's a tough question.
Don't tell me that's a tough question, but really?
No, I mean,
oh man.
Obviously, it's better not to kill a human because there's more value to the human.
Because of course, but why is it obvious, brother? Why is it obvious to you? Because I know as a Muslim why it's obvious to me, but why is it obvious to you?
I believe we actually have a different belief, but we come to the same agreement.
How?
I believe that man, this is really great conversation.
It's a good conversation. Yeah, we both get to think out our.
Just repeat the question. I'm kind of.
Like, what I mean is, you admitted that intrinsically the human has more value and worth than the animal. Because I'll give you an example, brother. And sorry, I forgot. I didn't catch your name. Gennady. Sadat. Because Gennady, if these 6-7 stalls here were selling human meat, I'm sure you and I wouldn't just be standing here with a poster saying that's not a nice thing to do.
Right.
We'd attack these guys. We'd like seriously, we would, right? We'd say you're selling like baby kids and
illegal.
you're cutting up babies and selling them, and it's illegal and it's so immoral.
Yes.
It's so intrinsically unjust and unethical. We would ourselves probably close these guys down, right? So the question is that on a religious worldview, especially on an Islamic worldview, we believe that the human being is the crown of God's creation. He's the Khalifa, meaning the vice regent of God on earth. In the Christian worldview, it's the idea that the human is made in the image of God. The chicken is not made in the image of God. So on the Christian Muslim worldview, we have a reason to believe that the human value has more intrinsic worth and value than the animal life. What I'm asking is that on your non-religious, vegan ideological worldview, how did you conclude that the human has more intrinsic value than the chicken or the goat?
That was very well articulated.
Yeah, you got the question,
Great
right?
question, yes. So, I believe we both came to the same conclusion, and my non-religious view is because I believe the human has more value because it has more potential to create good. A chicken compared to a human, a chicken is just going to do what chicken does. A human has the potential to save lives, make medicine, change the world. A chicken can't do that. I humbly have to agree, but that doesn't mean we still have to hurt animals. You know what I mean? That doesn't take away from the vegan point.
So if the only reason that the human life has more intrinsic
potential
value is due to the potential, if that's the key characteristic,
I think we have fundamentally agreed on this thing that humans are more valuable than some animals.
I'm not trying to talk you out of that view. I'm glad that you agree that hopefully my life is worth more than that of a chicken, but I do see it still as problematic, like the reasoning. So if the reasoning is attached with potential, then we could ask, for example, what about an autistic kid who, rather than being some kind of like asset to the society in the financial sense or something,
he's handicapped.
Might be, or my father, for example, who's a 10-year stroke victim, who's completely bedridden, cannot speak, cannot talk. He's in we even call that a vegetable state, right? Because they resemble a vegetable, and yet
there's some value there. There's some.
Exactly.
He's protected by law.
I can step on an ant much easier than I can.
I'm almost confused. I don't know if you're almost arguing my point because there's no consistency. It's like we would hurt an ant, we would hurt a cow, we would hurt a dog, but then there's no consistency. It's like I believe hurting all animals is wrong.
No, but from our perspective, I think it is consistent because what we're saying is that the human being, while he's alive, he is the crown of God's creation, and so even you, God forbid, in a vegetable state, you have this soul that's been breathed in you by God. I'm going by our scriptures, what the Quran says. So, and while that soul dwells in you, you still have that sanctity of a human being. Even though we know, let's say, God forbid, you're brain dead, the doctors have said there's no way. Gennady, is it?
Yeah.
There's no way Gennady's coming out of this thing, right? We're like, he's a human being. We believe he has a soul, and so due to our religious conviction, we are consistent. That's why we can run.
So your point is based on their having a soul. That's what crown jewel, like you said, humans have high meaning because they have a soul. Do you believe that animals don't have souls?
I don't think we have any evidence. Now, by evidence, I mean our scriptural evidence, according to the Quran.
Or even scientific evidence,
the Sunnah. Well, scientific evidence, even a human soul will be hard to prove. It's a metaphysical thing, right? Yeah. So, as per our, I mean, if Ijaz, do you have anything to add? I don't know of any evidence that chicken or a dog or a cat has a soul. They're living animals, obviously, and they are sentient beings.
So they experience life similarly to us. They might not have the same meaning given by God, but back to my point is, why can't we just coexist without hurting them? Because it is possible. There is the way, the vegan way. It's possible.
Is the vegan way really possible though? Like when COVID first happened, right? When people are going hungry because we couldn't get food readily available, wouldn't frozen meats or salted meats last longer than, say, vegetables?
That's a whole different problem that if we want to get into, because that shows production inequality. If you look at the stats of the world, the most impoverished places in the world, they create all the grains that go exported, so they can't even eat the same food that they're growing. Now you ask yourself, where is that going? It's going to feed the animals, like in the rainforest, where they're growing all these cows and passages and stuff like that. So it's very unequal. So the vegan sustainability-wise is the only answer.
But it's
Back
not
to
the
shortage.
but it can't be the answer now, because we can't make that transition, right?
But it can. Let me ask you. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
We can feed all the animals in the world. How many? How many you think cattle and like agriculture? Probably in the billions.
It is
How many humans do you think there are?
7 point something.
So I'm not a mathematician, but let's break it down. How come there's starving people, but yet there's no starving animals?
No, but that's food inequality. What I'm speaking of is meats last longer than actual vegetables, fruits, etc.
Is it? Do they?
Yeah. So for example, I can salt,
salting meat,
yeah, I
yes.
can salt meats, but I
But what are
can't.
we comparing it to?
But food, we're saying food in general, right?
Well, we can't be too. You're not being general because you're saying meat. So meat is very
Okay.
specific, but vegetables is general. Like
Yeah, but the
let's
vegetables,
say you
you
have
can't
tofu.
salt vegetables exactly, right?
Maybe you could. I'm
you
not
could
sure.
pickle them. You can pickle them, but not at the same quantities, right?
I also
What about,
wonder
like,
if
rice?
dried vegetables would retain the same
Nutrient
nutritional value as
value,
maybe
no.
as preserved meat. I'm just wondering.
I don't think so.
have 100%.
But you're
Sorry, I don't know. Carry on.
go ahead. No, go
No, I was just gonna ask how long you've been a vegan. I'd like to know a
Since
little bit.
2018, so about 3.5 years. But doesn't mean I've been perfect. I've had slip-ups. I've had donuts here and there. But again, it comes down to
That's
a
what he
moral-
says too. Don't
It comes
worry.
down to a moral belief. Morally,
Yeah.
I can never go back to not being a vegan. Like lifestyle, maybe I'll have hiccups here and there, but morally, I can never hurt.
But
it.
brother, no, when because you said with great confidence that it can be done, and I've found that many of the people that I spoke to, who not even vegan phase, I would say they went through vegetarian phases. They just did not find it sustainable. The vast majority of them. So. I'm surprised that that's quite recent, like 2018.
No,
That
everyone's
look,
different, of
my
course.
brother Gennady, that would
Yes.
be like me saying that you can go through the whole of your life, without sex or without women or something like that. Look, I'm doing it. Anyone can do it. And then you ask me, well, how?
anecdotal.
No, but then you ask me, well, how long have you been chaste? And I say 2018. You say, well, dude, that's just 3 years, man. That's different than saying your whole life without a woman, your whole life without a wife, right? So, with respect, I mean, 2018, like you're still pretty young in the game, right?
But there's other people in the industry, I would call it,
Okay,
that you can kind
all
of
right.
relate. So,
Yeah.
but also, I want to give you examples in nature. Like some people give you the example of protein comes from animals, right? But if you look at nature, like silverback gorillas, elephants, hippos, they're huge, but they don't eat any meat. So there's no direct correlation. There's also no direct correlation between canines. People say because you have canines, that means we have to eat meat. But back to silverback gorillas, hippos, they have huge canines, but they don't eat any meat. So there's no direct correlation.
Okay, but this doesn't necessarily solve the problem, right? So, for those
is
of
the
you
problem?
who don't know, these are the reasons that people normally give why they can't go vegan, right?
Yes, including myself. I've done it before.
Right. So, for example, you just said,
I use this one, convenience.
why do you believe that your position is more ethical than, say, our position? Where would you say you get your ethics from?
Great question.
And that connects to my earlier question, which was that how did you arrive at the conclusion that the human life has more intrinsic value? Like, so you didn't answer, but then my response was that what about the person who's in a vegetable coma state? We can't kill him the way we would step on an ant. Maybe you can't step on an ant, but I'm just saying.
I'm kind of lost. Sorry, your question
so
again.
you said that your position was more moral
Oh, okay.
and more ethical.
I didn't say that, but I am implying that, and
Yeah,
I can give you an
okay.
example why. Because let's take away the animal context out of it. If I was hurting humans, I would not be a good person, right?
Okay.
So if you were hurting humans and I told you to stop hurting humans, in a way I would be morally superior because not hurting humans is the right thing to do.
Yeah, but we don't. So we agree that hurting humans is wrong, unless in specific instances,
Or that's
right?
probably the only reason.
Right. No, but in the case of animals, we have an exception as well. That's universally agreed for food, no?
That's a little bit tough. For food, yes, that's the reality, but that gets specific because in some places in the world, food can be.
Speak up.
Some places in the world can be like food can mean different things. So I don't know what you mean by food.
So I would say that our diets, right, cause us to eat meat. So why not? Right. So at least I would say for us, right, we need meat to survive, to live.
Are you
And
surviving though? With
I
your
believe-
Chelsea shirt, with your cell phone in your hand.
I am surviving
Are
with
you
my
looking
Chelsea
out for
t-shirt.
predators? I don't believe so. So I can't use that argument.
No, but understand the position I'm coming from, right? Which is simply to say I don't believe that your position is more moral.
Why not?
Right? Right. So
I'm defending not hurting animals. You're in a sense defending that it's okay to hurt animals.
in a limited capacity
What is that limited
for food, for my survival.
But again, it's not a good argument because you're not surviving.
But it's more expensive for me to eat vegetables and fruits on a daily basis.
As a human race, as a human.
We have where's the
Cost.
Yeah,
But that is a
Ganathi,
legitimate concern.
But the thing is, as a human race, as a human species, as a whole, we have not survived without meat.
I don't deny that.
So what I mean
but
is,
we also there's been other injustices that have also gotten us here that we don't agree with, like slavery.
Right. So, but Ganathi, the thing is, I don't see. I'm just making up this number. I mean, throughout the whole of human history, I don't know if we would have had 2%, 3%, maybe 5%. I'm skeptical. 5% of the human population at any given time was pure vegan. You know what I mean?
It's unheard of.
Yeah, unheard of. You agree?
Unnormal.
Yeah. So I'm just a little bit concerned, even though this is hypothetical. But
And you have every right.
Yeah, but I'm a little bit
Valid.
concerned that the conversation started where you said that religions are okay as long as they don't impose their values on other people and force them to follow it. But then you agreed that if we lived in a vegan state, you would actually impose and close down these shops that sell meat. And when you do that, it's in the name of alleviating suffering. You know what I mean? Alleviating suffering. But if at no given point in time, if 5% of the human population has ever been vegan, this is a pretty dangerous experiment to say that now we're going to have 100% of the population forcibly go vegan. How do you know that? How do you know that in preserving animal life and alleviating animal suffering, you may not actually end up causing a problem for human beings? Human beings getting sick.
Very valid
Human
concerns.
beings. Because there's different forms of protein, but the protein is processed differently too. We process chicken and fish differently than we process the protein from pea powder
That's debatable, but I believe that that's debatable that some like animal protein. Some people believe that animal protein is more digestible, but if you look at nature, like all protein originates in plants. So the animal that you're eating for protein had to eat plants to get that protein. So you're eating recycled protein. Now there's some proteins that you can't get from a plant-based diet, but I believe that there's some foods that you get all your essential nutrients and then your body can assimilate and create protein. Protein is a non-issue. Like I said, silverback gorillas, they don't care where their protein comes from. So
Yeah, but
I feel like,
actually,
sorry, you asked me a lot of questions.
I know, no, you're doing well. But by this logic, though, I mean, the vegetables themselves are getting a lot of their nutrients from the soil, and we wouldn't want to just eat soil. And are vegetables sentient? And do they feel anything? And if they feel, what's their level of feeling? And what's their level of consciousness? These are kind of unresolved discussions and debates.
At a time. The first one, the plant, I believe they do experience some kind of sensory perception, but I don't believe they have the capacity to feel any pain because evolutionary, that would mean like a tree, if you hurt a tree, it can't move away. Any other life form, it can run away from pain. That's an evolutionary.
I think there's some plants that actually move and close in on themselves.
Yeah, so hold on.
There's a predatory plant, yes.
But I don't buy this argument because we don't have to be on the same evolutionary path to experience pain. Just because they can't run away does not mean that they don't experience damage or
There is
hurt.
no evidence that they do.
No, but they do they do secrete a particular chemical
reaction,
when they
yes.
get
But
physically
they have no
damaged.
brain to process anything. So
But that's what we used to think about kids. We used to think that babies could not experience pain. Yeah, we did. We used to think that babies could not experience pain either.
I never heard that.
No, you know it.
But that would not make any logical sense because the baby has a brain. It might not be able to process the whatever it's processing, but there's a biological, physical thing that is happening.
But there's a physical response in kids as there are in plants when they are hurt or damaged. That's the point.
Are you
There is still a
comparing
reaction.
babies to plants?
I'm saying the reaction, the physical reaction is similar.
I don't believe so.
But what if it is that case? What would you do then in that case if you found out?
That's a great point, actually. I believe that a vegan diet would still hurt less animals because, back to the point, animals like a cow compared to a human eats way more plants. So if we're hurting plants, a vegan diet would hurt less plants. Does that make sense?
If the only
One second. But wait a second. You're making a moral judgment that it's better to hurt plants than hurt animals when the point of going vegan is to cause less suffering. If we increase suffering on one population over another, we're not stopping the suffering, we're just redirecting it.
Minimizing.
Redirecting it more plants will get eaten, no?
No, actually less.
Why will less plants get
Because
eaten?
right now, to feed all the livestock animals takes a lot more plants than it would take to feed all the humans if there were no like livestock.
Yeah.
Understand? To feed one cow, you probably need, let's say, 100 pounds. To feed one human, you probably need 20 pounds. I'm probably off on those numbers, but you know what I'm trying to say?
I get what you're saying, but I think that would be specific to corn and grain in particular, not other plants and
Just
animals.
plants.
Yeah, but not other plants in general,
arguing.
which we would need to increase to make up the deficit. So, for example, I might eat 10 pounds of potato this year, but if I eliminate meat from my diet entirely, I'll go up to 20, 30, 40 pounds. So that would still have a net increase overall.
But
It's
isn't
not
it guaranteed that
self-balancing.
Wait, am I arguing plant life?
Yeah, you are.
Well, gosh darn it, you caught me off guard. I think that's silly. I believe, how come when firefighters go to save a fire, they don't save the plants? Can you explain
So
that?
I'm going one step
For the
further
same
than
reason
you.
they save the human before they save the cat or the dog
But
too,
they never
right?
go back to the plants. They let it burn. Because we all can agree that plants are not alive. They're alive in their own way, but they are not in any capacity to any life form. They have a different life form.
Yeah, but we agree that animals and humans have a different life form. We say that based on scripture, we don't believe animals have souls, right? So I'm just taking your argument and I'm going one step
Even if
further.
they don't have souls, how can you justify causing pain to other beings?
How do we know because the animal pain necessarily?
Yeah, there's actually a debate on whether animals experience pain, and again, if they do, what does that pain mean, and how do they process that, and how do they remember
That's
that?
where I have to cut it off because I completely disagree. I mean, give me an
Based
example
on
where an
what
animal would
the-
not experience pain. Sorry?
But what do you consider pain to be in this case?
A discomfort?
But we all experience this. Well, I'm always in discomfort.
No, that's
See,
not what I mean.
the other thing is, I mean, how exactly do you measure suffering, right? If the point of all of this not hurting animals is to
It's back to
is to alleviate suffering, like what tool or instrument do we actually have to measure suffering? In other words, that cow that I didn't eat, that we didn't slaughter, that we didn't eat, how do you know now that he experienced less suffering in his life? I mean,
I'll tell you
look,
why.
there's no old age home for old cows, right? There's no hospital for old sick cows. So how do you measure the pain and suffering that it went through dying through illness versus being slaughtered, right?
Right question. So because of the high demand for animal products,
Yeah.
like we have to artificially create these animals. So we have to artificially inseminate them.
Yeah, we can meet you halfway here. Continue.
In
sorry.
a word,
yeah,
But we
yeah.
agree
we have to
here.
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of create an animal so we can make it suffer so we can eat it.
We
So
disagree
the
with
vegan
that.
solution is to not create the animal at all, and then there won't be any suffering associated to that existence.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to critically look at your viewpoints before I offered those kind
very
of
wise, very
those
wise.
bridges where we can perhaps meet halfway. So where we can meet part way, for example, is that, I mean, swine flu. We don't eat swine, right? Jews and Muslims, right?
Can we pause here?